AskReddit by Business Reporter 420. What's the fastest way you've ever seen a new coworker get fired? 6 hours. Call center job. She showed up to orientation on day 1 about an hour late. Hey, stuff happens. Then we go on a 15-minute break. She goes out to take a phone call, comes back in after about 45 minutes. We go to lunch, it's 30 minutes. She comes back over an hour later. We go on afternoon break. When the 15-minute break is up, one of the trainers gets up and steps out in the hall and closes the door behind him. We hear her arrive and argue with him about 20 minutes after that. He comes back in and gets the stuff she left at her desk and we never see her again. I was 1 hour late to the first day at a job once. I was given the street address, but not the city. I showed up to a non-existent address in Manhattan, NY, not realizing it was in Brooklyn. They understood, and I actually went on to become a crew leader later on. Edit. To the guy who corrected my use of city vs borough, the thing is, you aren't wrong, but you are pedantic. Literally everyone in Nick would understand what I meant when I said city. It takes a true Redditor to correct someone simply to feel like a smug asshole though. Great job. First day, her grandmother died. Understandable. Second day, her car broke down. Bad luck. Third day, she had no electricity and couldn't blow dry her hair. She was told not to bother coming in at all. There are a lot of these people. What do they think is going to happen? Like they'll come into work eventually, everyone will understand, and they'll be a great employee. Tomorrow though. Today they're hungover. I fired a girl like this. She acted gobsmacked. Wow. Gosh, really? This is kinda crazy. I've never been fired before. She showed up for about 50% of her scheduled days for like 2 straight weeks. Did she really think that was how jobs work? In high school I worked at a clothing store as a cashier. Guy next to me has his sister come through with a huge pile of merchandise. He scans one item that was on clearance for like $2 over and over again for everything she had, which was likely hundreds of dollars. Didn't realize the manager was standing right behind him. Go clock out and give me your name tag, you're gone. He didn't argue or anything, just put his head down and walked off. The manager jumps on the register to clear the transaction out and the sister takes out her card. This is gonna be a credit. Manager says not for $2, it's not. Get out of here. The sister actually tried to complete the purchase like nothing had happened. Lol. Jean-Ralphio and Mona Lisa's Saperstein vibes. I was still training him. I was bartending at a restaurant and we were doing a deep bar cleaning. We had to move one of those big margarita machines up to the bar from a lower shelf. A couple of us were trying to figure out the best way to move this thing as it's pretty heavy. New guy says he's got this, pulls out a vial thing of coke, does some, and then bear hugs the machine and lifts it onto the bar. I told him something along the lines of, dude, that awesome but you are so fired. He looked at me like I was crazy so I just pointed to the cameras. I was like 20-21 at the time but even then it blew my mind. I'm dying. Cocaine Popeye. He didn't get fired, he quit. But this dude was a first day hire as a bagger at a grocery store. Some dude blew up the entire bathroom with diarrhea. Walls, doors, sink, mirror, everywhere. They asked new dude to go clean it. He clocked out and never came back. He's a hero. That happened to my cousin. His first day at a local Albertsons Savon. The shift lead openly referred to him as new bitch over the stomach to call him to the office. Tells him that an old lady left a trail of liquid shit from the meat section down one of the frozen aisles to the bathroom where she exploded all over the stall to somehow include a little bit of the ceiling. Shift lead hands him a sponge mop and a spray bottle of some homebrew Clorox type spray and tells him to clean it up. No goggles, no apron, no gloves. Nothing but a dry mop and a spray bottle. He dropped his name tag, gave the shift lead the bird and walked out. A guy at my work was caught playing World of Warcraft 4 hours each day. Boss called him in and told him that was wholly unacceptable and he had to stop immediately or he'd be canned. Less than an hour later, it calls the same boss and says the guy's back in his office playing again. He was let go that day. WoW is an addiction. I have many friends who sunk years into that game. Day 1. Delivering pizzas. I was the trainer. Dude wasn't familiar with the town at all. This was before GPS was a thing. Second delivery, he gets in the car and proceeds to floor it in the parking lot, showing off all 80 horsepower for the 30 feet before slamming on the brakes to turn onto the main street, nearly hitting a customer and her young child. I say, ho, slow down in the parking lot, you almost hit that kid. Fuck him was his response. That was his last delivery, lasted all of about 90 minutes. Keeping kids alive isn't my job, delivering pizza is. Worked in a sales call center about 10 years ago, real brained at work. New guy starts on a Monday morning. After he gets trained up on the basics, which takes about an hour, he gets assigned a desk and sets off to work. 30 minutes later, it looks like little puffs of steam are rising up from his computer monitor. Turns out he was vaping on one of those disposable e-cigarettes, the kind that sort of tried to look like real cigarettes. He gets told by the boss that we can't vape indoors, and if he wants to, he'll have to go outside to do it on a break. About 30 minutes later again, the same thing happens. He gets caught again, and is told in no uncertain terms that if he wants to keep his job, he'll stop vaping at his desk. An hour later, he gets caught hiding under his desk vaping, and is promptly fired, all before lunchtime. Dude could have just gone outside. We had the same thing happen. I had a lady that worked for me that I warned repeatedly not to vape at her desk or indoors, but she would not stop. The really weird part was it was an office setting and there was no one telling her when she could or couldn't take smoke breaks. All she had to do was get up and go outside for a few, but she just wouldn't stop vaping at her desk. After she ignored my third warning, we told her to pack up her vape and leave. Still one of the absolute weirdest things I've ever seen, throwing away a decent job over vaping indoors. I was working as a stable boy, and I was showing the new girl around the stables. As I introduced her to the horses, she was very apprehensive to come near them, refusing to even step into the stall. She signed on to help care for the horses. Later that day, she admitted that the horses terrified her, so the boss let her go. From that first sentence, I expected a totally different outcome. He helped the shift leader, a friend of his, steal the ATM from the lobby. He used his own pickup truck. How about getting fired before you start working? Our boss hired a new person as a contractor, and he was available to work immediately, so he was scheduled to start work the day after his interview. Next morning my boss turns up, very annoyed, and shows me his phone. The new hire had sent several rambling and confused SMSs that could be summarized as had a few drinks last night, won't be able to come into work today, you know how it is. My boss told him the contract was cancelled. What an idiot. Day 1, shot up right outside the building. Clocked in, went to work. Was found an hour later slumped over a table slowly munching on stolen muffins like an elderly dog. Clarification. Shot up, as in they injected drugs with a needle. This is the best description ever. Had a new hire smoke weed in the bathroom within 2 hours of starting his first day, not vape or anything but literally lit a joint in the bathroom. Like bro, my office is 10 feet away. Similar to story I have above, the worst part was that the new hire did it in essentially a school building. New bartender was supposed to start on a Wednesday afternoon. She showed up an hour and a half late and went straight back behind the bar to grab a towel and start wiping down tables without even saying a word to me or asking where our manager was, and just looking at her movements she was clearly tweaking out. I went to the back to go let the manager know the new girl is finally here, and when we came back out front she was hiding in the back corner booth doing a line of coke off the table. All in all, this girl worked about 3 minutes for us, which consisted of her running a dry towel over already clean tables and then leaving another table for me to clean cocaine residue off of. Add cocaine residue cleaner to the list of his dream jobs. Worked second shift at a factory. Late in the evening, we would prop open the doors along the side street to try to catch a breeze in the summertime. One night, this drunk guy stumbles in through the side door and just starts striking up conversations with everyone like he owns the place. I run over and try to tell him that he can't be in there, and he starts telling me he's supposed to start work that night. We kind of argue for about 5 or 10 minutes about the fact that I didn't have anyone new starting that night, and I finally tell him that he needs to contact someone in the office the next morning. When I came into work the next day, the first shift supervisor told me that he was supposed to have a new guy start that day, but he never showed up. I told him that the guy had actually shown up, 12 hours early and staggering drunk. In a way, he was fired before his first day on the job. I have to believe he was getting drunk with friends, celebrating his new job, and one of them said, "Wait, was it 12 AM or 12 PM that you were supposed to start?" And he takes a look and it says 12 PM. He then rushes out, because we all know that PM means night. Why do you think they call it Tylenol PM? He gets there, sloshed, trying to convince you that he's supposed to start only to be told he needs to contact them in the morning. The next day, he wakes up, in the afternoon, too late. PM, so to speak. New guy came into work hammered out of his mind and started trying to operate a forklift right in front of the regional safety manager. A lot of forklift certified and right in front of my OSHA handbook memes were shared that day. We had a forklift driver at my first job who got a remark from the safety manager when passing him in his forklift. Dude got so pissed he tried to run the safety manager over. Came 2 hours late, didn't do any actual work, and then asked how long he has to keep doing tasks below his qualifications. Luckily for him, not very long, I presume. The new dishwasher told the hostess he wanted to fuck her in the ass in front of the entire staff and several early morning customers. It was borderline a mob. It's got to be tough to go through life with absolutely zero impulse control. When I was 14, I worked a summer job for cash, delivering furniture. Barely a week into the job, another new guy started. During our first delivery, he dropped a couch and broke a leg on it, so we had to go back to the warehouse and get a different couch, and have him explain what happened. The owner was pissed, but because the guy was so new, he told him just don't damage anything else. Our next delivery after the couch was a huge dresser. As we moved it off the truck, he once again dropped his end, and the force from how heavy it was caused it to break into multiple pieces upon hitting the concrete. We didn't have any other dressers like that in stock, so the customer would have to wait who knows how long for one to show up. When we got back to the warehouse, he was fired on the spot. I still remember my boss saying, "You hire someone to deliver furniture and then all they do is bread." I thought you meant broke his own leg under the couch. I was impressed with the man's ability to regenerate bone so quickly. Attempted to attack a customer who had a very mild complaint about their order the second hour of their first day working the front. They seemed fine with doing computer training, so I was shocked. I was training them at the register, and an old man kindly let us know that he asked for fries with no salt. We were right across from a dialysis center, but his were salty. Trainee accused the old man of trying to just get hot fries. An arsehole cook was telling him that's the only reason people order unsalted fries, snatched his bag out of his hand, and tried to throw it at his face. I managed to catch his arm before he could, and ripped the bag away from him. The first time I've ever had to actually pull someone by their ear to an office, but it was literally like dealing with one of those 80s middle school movie villains, except he was 18. Deleted. Deleted. For any business leaders reading this, don't put non-technical people in charge of hiring for technical jobs, And don't put the finance department in charge of it. Both are recipes for a disastrous IT department. We hired a woman who turned out to be pretty abrasive. How she got hired, I have no idea. Our secretary was the sweetest lady in the office and never complained until this new hire talked with her for a few minutes. Right after talking to this horrible person, she approached the boss and said she would walk off the job if this new worker stayed on with us. By lunch half the office was ready to walk off the job because of this abrasive person. She just had an utterly horrible way of talking to people that made them feel degraded and enraged. She was let go at the end of the day. Energy vampire. New guy went to corporate for training and was staying in a hotel. He flashed a room service lady and she ran away. My company is currently getting sued lol. Got a speeding ticket, 20 plus mph over, in the company car picking up lunch for the staff. Day 1. At my dad's old job, a worker was driving a company vehicle drunk and crashed and killed a family and it bankrupted the business. IDK what happened to that worker? I'd assume he's in jail, but many workers lost their job, and the owners lost their business because of that guy, plus it's tragic people got killed. We hired a director for our office. About a week later the women in the office were complaining about him, saying he was sexist. Turns out he was in a meeting and a woman tried speaking and he told her that her opinion didn't matter. He was gone within a couple days. I wish shit like that actually got people fired at my past jobs. The CEO and some engineering staff had just interviewed a young woman for a job and they were in a conference room with the door opened. They all proceeded to talk about how hot she is and the CEO said I'd fuck her. I looked over and yelled, "Are you serious?" and they just slid the glass door closed. Absolutely egregious sexism. Sick poor taste. These guys were so gross. Deleted. New guy was a research scientist and that position was filled after having difficulty finding the right guy. Usually our company offers $5,000 for moving expenses. For him, he was moving from North Carolina. He was offered $10,000. When he started his first week, he gave a $10,000 receipt from a moving company. Our financial and accounting team looked at this single $10,000 receipt and called the moving company asking them why they charged $10,000 to move a couple of couches and TV. They got flustered I think and said, "Look, we don't want any trouble." This guy offered $1,000 to give him a made up receipt of $10,000, so we did. He was fired immediately. The VP was like, "Let's put this as an infraction and not fire him since it took so much time to fill this position." The CEO put his foot down saying this doesn't look like he was doing this for the first time and plus more importantly what if he starts manipulating research data. This idiot's salary was $120K. And he lost this gig for $10,000. That can actually be criminally charged in some states. Dude showed up for his first night shift, clocked in, walked out, and allegedly drove an hour across the border to a different state and clocked in for another job there. It took Walmart management a month to realize they were missing someone every night he was on the schedule. If anything the dude said was true, I felt for him. Supposedly his mom was terminally ill and he was doing this to try to make more money for her medical bills. I worked with a guy on the overnight shift that would work his 8 hours, 11 p7er, then wait for his mom to come pick him up at noon during her lunch break and he never clocked out in that time. He would just wait in the break room or walk around the store 25 hours of overtime per week when overtime wasn't even allowed. Management gave him way too many opportunities and it took them about 3 months to finally fire him. Great worker, very positive attitude, always on time, just couldn't clock out on time. Day 1. I caught him on camera smoking meth, the same day that he installed the cameras. Can't make this shit up.